Hi, this is Isabella Breda, the editor-in-chief of The Echo, Cal Lutheran's student newspaper. Cal Lutheran Residence Life recently accepted applications for double the amount of residential students that are currently living on campus. Our reporter, Alijah Hernandez, got the chance to connect with Director of Residence Life Chris Paul and resident assistant Rama Youssef to find out how Residence Life is protecting students during the coronavirus pandemic and how things will change come the fall. Welcome, Alijah.
So my name's Alijah. I'm a third year at Cal Lutheran, and I'm a reporter for The Echo.
And incoming copy editor, right?
Yes, and incoming copy editor.
Super exciting. Well, yeah, so you wrote a really big story this week about doubling residential student capacity on campus. So I was wondering if you'd talk a little bit about the background that you got from Chris Paul and what that expansion is going to look like.
She mentioned that they were going to have 1,200 students back on campus this coming fall semester. At least that's their goal. And I know that the past semesters, they had just over 300 and 600 students. And personally, I was that's a little concerning to hear. But she said that there are a lot of protocols in place and that the facility staff is trained and they're cleaning too. They're also cleaning high touch surface areas. And overall, I think they're just really looking forward to having a lively campus again. And she mentioned that students have gone through a lot and some haven't even participated or experienced what it's like living on campus for their first year. Mm-hmm. And that's a big part of the college experience. So I think that's really important.
Have you personally lived on campus during the pandemic at all?
No, not during the pandemic. I lived on campus my first year of college. So when I was a freshman, I think that's a rule that they have. Yeah. But not during the pandemic. I do have friends who live on campus currently, and they say that it's only 2 people in an apartment, almost house. So it's really comfortable in a sense. And they feel safe staying there because they feel Cal taking the proper precautions in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic. So they feel safe personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Rama, who you interviewed, who's an RA, also said, it feels like there's enough guidelines in place to where she feels safe. But I'm curious what is going to change for the fall if there's going to be double the amount of students on campus.
Okay, yeah. She says this is what she said during the interview. She said that we have put in place such as the guest policy, physical distancing, and mask wearing has prevented the spread of this virus for the last 13 months on this campus. And I'm also hopeful that with the rate of the vaccine distribution, we will continue to move in the right direction. Oh, so I did ask, will there be any additional housing protocols this coming fall semester? And Chris Paul said, at this point, it is a little hard to say, but we will continue to have isolation and quarantine space, as well as follow all safety guidelines from the county, state, CDC, and our public health agencies. Okay. So I think they're not too sure themselves. But yeah, I was a little curious on how that works too. If 1,200 students are going to be returning on campus, does that mean more people to rooms?
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Okay, so some of that stuff's still kind of up in the air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're it's hard to say because these are kind of unprecedented times, so they can only assume that with fall things will get better, but I'm sure that they haven't made any solid protocols in place because things can change. And I think we've seen that within the past semesters.
Yeah, definitely. Last semester they announced this semester would be in person, and then the state was still under the stay-at-home order in the beginning and all of that. And then we finally started allowing some in-person courses. obviously like midway through the semester, so a lot of people couldn't attend anyway. Yeah, we have students who are like in different countries and different states, and they were seeing that California was still under the stay-at-home order. But yeah, I guess this news article comes at an interesting time because Ventura County just moved into the orange tier a couple weeks ago, which you have to have between 2 and 5.9 daily cases per 100,000 residents. So that's obviously like a really low threshold. I'm wondering if anything changes, if that's going to affect the plans for the amount of students on campus, but I'm sure that's something that's going to be determined further down the road.
Okay, yeah, that's the other thing that I'm like somewhat concerned about because like for commuter students, like not all of them are a part of Ventura County and
Right.
some are a part of like LA County. And I know Kalu like has some protocols in place, like you have to have a negative COVID test, but I think that's going to be a little bit hard to measure. Just like as we start getting back into the swing of things.
Yeah.
But that's just like a concern because you know, not all the students live on campus. So they have control over some students that are living on campus because they're within the area, within the county. But
Right.
then other commuter students are like not so much in that same place. So it's like a little scary.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing about that is we just put out an article stating that the university hasn't decided if they're going to require students to be vaccinated. So we're reopening more housing alongside this uncertainty. And there's a million other factors with what they say are going to be fully in-person courses, which is kind of optimistic right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially because like I know for at least one of my classes, like people have the option of showing up and the teachers are there teaching with their 360-degree cameras, but there's only one person in the classroom. So that's just kind of interesting to see.
Yeah. I know other universities are offering the option to stay online and like kind of like optimistically planning to have classes in person, but I know that our university president is really pushing to have it fully open in her terms. So that should be interesting. But the other thing behind the other thing behind that is Gavin Newsom, the governor, put this like June fully reopen date with the mask mandates in place. Granted that the levels keep trending down. I think it's June 15th. So that, again, if we're talking about optimistically planning things for the whole state to reopen, I guess that'll make it easier for Cal Lutheran if they want to. But
yeah, it's like, I feel like we're kind of in a time where, well, like, I don't know if this is like true for you, but when I'm watching Netflix movies and I see gatherings, like I get a little freaked out because in person, we're not allowed to gather. And I'm like, what? Like, why are people so close? And I feel like now it's like we kind of develop this fear of wanting to meet in person and like what the possibilities of what could happen because we are currently living through what has happened when people are gathering and, you know, like the consequences of the pandemic and the virus. And so I think it's really scary. Or like there's just some sort of fear developed around meeting and opening and having large events.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, like, even people who are fully vaccinated, I know I have friends that are like student workers that are like, even though I'm fully vaccinated, like the idea of doing normal things is still scary because like it's still out there. Like it's not over. There's still people in the hospital. So.
Right. Yeah. It's funny that you say that because the other day I went to the store and I think from my understanding, we're still supposed to be wearing masks, but the people who feel like who've gotten both of their vaccines feel like they're bulletproof from the virus. So they're walking through the store with no mask, like it doesn't faze them, which I think is like, it's kind of funny, but like not funny at the same time. So yeah, like even getting the vaccines, like I'm sure there's still a fear around meeting in person.
Yeah. And it's not none of the vaccines that are available, I was going to say Johnson & Johnson too, but that's on pause right now. But Moderna and Pfizer, they're not 100% effective. So that's the other thing to keep in mind. Like, they're highly effective, but you can still get sick and transmit the virus. So,
and I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Pfizer coming out with a third shot for their vaccine?
Yeah, so they've been talking about this for a while, that most likely with both of the mRNA, which is Moderna and Pfizer, you're going to need like a booster shot every year. And the Pfizer CEO came out like last week saying within 12 months, so maybe even before a year, you'll need a booster. Yeah. Yeah, so we're not out of this as much as we want to say we are, but I guess Cal Lutheran is starting to have more life on campus, and Res Life is planning to accommodate more students, which we know they've been needing that revenue because of the budget shortfall. I mean, a huge part of that was residential students.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the push. I mean, the other push is, losing out on the student experience, like you were saying, for freshmen that didn't live on campus. I mean, even like transfer students that just didn't get to meet anyone or do anything. But yeah, I'm hopeful that they put in some health and safety guidelines to protect students if they're going to have that many on campus.
Yeah, that's the other thing about attending like Cal Lutheran, for example, is that they're also a school. They also run off of funds and funding, and like they kind of need that source of like income, and like with the students not being there, they're losing out on that income that, supporting certain programs and faculty and staff. And it's kind of like you're kind of like weighing, it's almost like they're struggling with the balance of like, how do we make sure our students are staying safe, and how do we keep them safe, but how do we also keep our school open and running? Yeah. And it's like they're trying to find like a balance between that.
Yeah. I mean, considering that's the other thing is like, we're also a business. And so, and our president likes to say she's like president and CEO, and especially during like the financial crisis, she's emphasizing that, because some of the decisions that you have to make in those situations aren't putting people first. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Survive. Yeah,
exactly.
Financially survive, I should say. But yeah, I guess, is there anything else you think students need to know about moving on campus? Have those applications already closed, or can people still apply?
I'm not sure, but I think people can still apply. I know when I was talking to Rama, she generally said that she felt safe living on campus, and she also said that most of the staff is vaccinated. So she kind of feels protected in a way, which is kind of reassuring to hear someone who lives on campus say that they feel safe, because I think it makes other people feel safe too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, Chris Paul, in your article, you had some good quotes from her saying that she really does credit Cal Lutheran's like success in a way. There was one outbreak, so I can't say it was a complete success. But she credits that to people following the guidelines, and like they were pretty strict in enforcing them. I know it came up in like an ASCLUG meeting that people just wanted to be able to study with people that lived in different halls. Like that wasn't even permitted. So there were some strict guidelines in place, and some of that was enforced maybe stricter as a result of the outbreak. I don't know for sure. But it certainly seemed like things were tightened down this spring, and especially coming in at such a bad place. I mean, the ICU capacity in Ventura County was so low in January.
Yeah.
But yeah, things are looking up. So we're opening up more dorms, and I guess we'll see how it goes. Anything else during the pandemic?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for interviewing me.
Here's what else you need to know this week. Cal Lutheran full and part-time employees are eligible for supplemental COVID-19 paid sick leave. Our reporter, Malcolm Van Halen, has the story. Next thing you need to know this week. The Habit Burger, a beloved restaurant on Cal Lutheran's campus, is slated to reopen come the fall 2021 semester. Our reporter, Malcolm Van Halen, has the story. Last thing you need to know this week. Cal Lutheran Cares Day, an annual fundraising event, raised over $1 million for 22 initiatives on April 7th. Our reporter, Madison Morin, has the story. All of the news discussed in this podcast can be found at cluecho.com. Thanks for listening.